The cold steel scissors snapped with a bone-chilling crack as the blade severed Jasmine Carter's glossy dark curls, each ringlet tumbling to the classroom floor, while more than 20 students sat frozen in horror. What began as a cruel prank, orchestrated by Justin Sinclair, the golden boy of Sterling Academy, set off a cataclysmic chain of events that would shatter the school's esteemed reputation, expose a decade-long web of corruption and racism, and ultimately send powerful figures behind bars. They assumed Jasmine was just another poor black girl on scholarship, an easy target who would stay silent under their authority. They had no idea Jasmine Carter was about to make them pay the highest price of their lives. Morning on October 15th started like any other at Sterling Academy, the prestigious private school nestled in an affluent Connecticut suburb. Amid the ancient elms and Gothic buildings, 17-year-old Jasmine Carter, newly arrived on a full scholarship, walked the path to class with cautious confidence. It didn't take long for her to realize she was an outsider, singled out for both her skin color and her modest means. Still, she maintained top grades, which only fueled the envy and hostility of the wealthier students. As usual, Jasmine arrived early to history class, her natural black curls neatly tied back in a simple ponytail that highlighted her vibrant beauty. She claimed her seat in the front center, closest to the teacher's desk, a clear symbol of her dedication. Mr. David Matthews, a tall, middle-aged man with thin-wire glasses, began his lecture on World War I in his familiar, measured tone. While Jasmine diligently took notes, she felt a sudden tug at her hair from behind. At first, she assumed someone brushed past, but when it happened a second time, harder, more deliberate, accompanied by cruel chuckles, she kept her head down, knowing any reaction would only delight them. Then she heard it, the metallic hiss of scissors opening. Her heart pounded as she realized what was coming. Before she could react, the cold blade sliced through her hair in one brutal sweep. The sound echoed in the hush of the classroom as her soft curls rained down like autumn leaves. A few students gasped in shock. Others laughed in sick amusement at the spectacle unfolding. Jasmine reached back, feeling the jagged stubble where her once long hair had been. Slowly, she turned, fury sparking in her eyes even as her voice stayed eerily calm as she faced her assailant. There stood Justin Sinclair, his handsome face twisted with mocking smugness, scissors in hand as if this were some harmless joke. Behind him, his wealthy cronies, Blake Morrison, Emma Collins, and Derek Allen, watched expectantly, eager to witness her humiliation. Jasmine looked to Mr. Matthews, silently pleading for intervention, but he continued writing on the board, feigning obliviousness, his indifference as chilling as the scissors had been. As I was saying, the Treaty of Versailles marked a turning point in history, he droned, ignoring the assault. The tension in the room was suffocating. Jasmine realized it wasn't just Justin's clique but her teacher too who had chosen to remain complicit. She stood, heart pounding, but her voice was steady. "Mr. Matthews, I'd like to report an assault." The teacher flinched but replied coldly, "Jasmine, sit down. Don't make such a big deal out of this." She inhaled deeply, locking eyes with him, each word deliberate. "Should I collect the strands of hair on the floor as evidence for the police, or leave them here for investigators to find?" Justin's arrogant grin faltered, confusion flickering across his face. His friends glanced at one another, uneasy now that the prank's cruelty had been called out. Mr. Matthews reddened, torn between anger and fear, before regaining his icy composure. "Jasmine, stop overreacting. It was just a childish joke. Maybe if you weren't so conspicuous and provocative, this wouldn't have happened." The classroom fell utterly silent. Everyone sensed Mr. Matthews had stepped over a line. Jasmine gave a bitter smile, her calm demeanor unnerving. "Let me be clear," she said, voice ringing with steely resolve. "You're telling the class that because I'm a black student who excels, I deserve a public attack, and that's acceptable as a childish joke. Is that right, Mr. Matthews?" He stalled, eyes darting to Justin in a futile plea for help. Jasmine's gaze swept the room, unwavering. "I want every one of you to remember this moment. Remember who stayed silent and who spoke up. Because I promise you, this doesn't end here." With that, she gathered her books and walked out of the classroom, leaving behind stunned faces and a Justin Sinclair too shocked to move, unaware that he had ignited a battle that would shake Sterling Academy to its core. The echo of Jasmine's footsteps rang through the silent history classroom. The door clicked shut behind her, but the resonance of her defiant words still lingered in the air, creating a tension the room had never known. Justin Sinclair remained frozen in place, the cold scissors still clutched in his hand, but his smug grin had vanished, replaced by a look of palpable anxiety. His wealthy clique glanced at one another, bewildered. None of them had expected such a fierce response from the girl they'd always seen as inferior. Jasmine did not cry, nor did she tremble. She stood tall, her gaze sharp and unwavering, like a warrior who had just declared war on a seemingly invincible foe. Her eyes locked onto Mr. David Matthews, who stood by the chalkboard, feigning composure but betraying his unease in his darting eyes. "Mr. Matthews," Jasmine spoke again, each syllable as sharp as a knife slicing through the classroom's forced calm. "I am formally requesting that you document the assault and racial discrimination I just endured in your class." Mr. Matthews froze mid-sentence. The piece of chalk in his hand quivered before snapping and falling to the floor. He turned, his face a mixture of embarrassment and irritation. His gaze flicked covertly to Justin, as if hoping for a rescue that would never come. "Jasmine," he said, struggling to keep his voice level, "you're blowing this way out of proportion. Maybe you should take a good look at yourself. Perhaps your outstanding performance has provoked your classmates." The statement landed like a thunderclap. Jasmine felt as though she'd been struck again, this blow no less painful than the shears that had cut her hair. Her teacher's brazen victim-blaming left her momentarily stunned. But Jasmine quickly reclaimed her composure. A fierce light ignited in her eyes, not tears, but righteous fury and unbreakable resolve. She fixed her gaze on Mr. Matthews and spoke with unmistakable strength. "Excuse me? You're blaming me, the only black student in this room, because I strive to excel academically? So, in your view, the victim is the problem and the perpetrator is innocent?" Her words cut through the silence like a blade. The students around shifted under the weight of their own guilt. Justin finally found his voice, trying to muster bravado, though it cracked. "Come on, Jasmine, you're making a big deal out of nothing. It was just a joke." Jasmine whirled to face him, her stare ice-cold. He immediately fell silent as she spoke softly, but with steely clarity. "A joke? Publicly humiliating me and assaulting me because of my skin color. And you call that a joke? Do you think your father's wealth puts you above consequences, Justin Sinclair?" Justin's face drained of color. Beside him, Blake Morrison took a cautious step back, distancing himself from the unfolding crisis. Emma Collins hurriedly slipped her phone into her pocket, realizing any evidence she held could now incriminate her. Jasmine turned back to Mr. Matthews, her voice ringing out once more. "Sir, I will not stay silent. I refuse to be demeaned and mistreated because I'm different. I will report this to the administration, and if necessary to the police. You cannot shield bullies forever. Your silence today proves that racism at Sterling Academy has gone too far. For the first time, Mr. Matthews felt a chill race down his spine. He had never expected a student to stand her ground so unwaveringly, so courageously. The classroom fell into absolute stillness. Even a quiet breath sounded loud. Jasmine held her head high, her expression resolute, like a young warrior challenging an entrenched system of injustice. When the bell finally rang, she gathered her books and walked out, leaving stunned faces in her wake. The jagged cut of her hair did nothing to diminish her strength. If anything, it stood as proof that Jasmine Carter would never again tolerate being demeaned or harmed. The door clicked shut behind her for the second time, this time with the sound of determination, announcing that the fight against bullies and the racist system at Sterling Academy had only just begun. The classroom door clicked shut behind Jasmine for the second time like a forceful period, marking the moment she chose to stand up to the injustice at Sterling Academy. But the instant she set foot in the hallway, her phone began buzzing frantically in her pocket, an unmistakable sign that something serious was unfolding. She pulled it out, and her heart skipped a beat. An Instagram notification showed that Emma Collins, the wealthy white girl from Justin's clique, had already uploaded a video of the incident. Jasmine's hand shook slightly as she tapped the play button. There, in the small screen, were the most humiliating moments of her life. Justin's mocking grin, the glint of the cold scissors, her curls tumbling to the floor, and Mr. Matthews's chilling silence. Emma's caption dripped with cruel sarcasm, finally taught her her place. Stay humble. Sterling life. A sharp pang of hurt cut through Jasmine, then ignited into fierce determination. She vowed she would not stay silent. Clutching her phone, she strode down the near-empty corridor and dialed the one number she trusted most. "Hey, Mama," came Angela Carter's worried voice. "Are you okay? I just saw the video. What happened, baby?" Jasmine drew a steadying breath, her voice strong but trembling with emotion. "They attacked me in class, Mom. Publicly humiliated me because of my skin and because I dared to excel. I'm not letting this go." "I'm right here, Jasmine. We'll fight this together," her mother replied without hesitation. After hanging up, Jasmine placed 2 more critical calls. The second went to her uncle, Mike Evans, a veteran reporter at the local news station and a family friend. "Uncle Mike," Jasmine began the moment he answered, "I need your help. I want to tell my story." "I saw the video, Jasmine," Mike said, voice laced with anger and concern. "You don't need to say another word. I'm on it." Her third call was to civil rights attorney Lauren Kim, widely respected across the state for her landmark cases. "Lauren Kim speaking," the lawyer answered, professional yet warm. "Hi, Ms. Kim. This is Jasmine Carter from Sterling Academy. You once said to call if I ever needed help. Well, today's that day." A moment of silence, then Lauren's voice firmed. "Jasmine, I've seen the video. Preserve every piece of evidence you have. I'll contact the school and the authorities right away. Don't answer any calls from the administration until I get there." As Jasmine made those calls, Emma's video was already going viral. Within the hour, #JusticeForJasmine was trending on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Outrage poured in. A privileged school with zero humanity. This is raw racism on display. How can a teacher be so complicit in violence? Influencers, activists, and even local lawmakers shared the clip. Sterling Academy, once proud of its spotless reputation, was now engulfed in an unprecedented media firestorm. In the headmaster's office, Patricia Brooks's phone rang nonstop. Emails flooded her inbox demanding swift and decisive action. The elite parents who normally wielded their wealth and influence to quash scandals were now panicked, scrambling to contain the public uproar. Meanwhile, Justin Sinclair felt his grip on power slipping for the first time. He spun to Emma, his voice a hissing whisper of panic. "Why did you post that video? You've blown this way out of proportion." Emma, long confident in her family's privilege, grew pale, recognizing that her harmless prank had unleashed a storm beyond anyone's control. Elsewhere in the halls, Jasmine walked on, unfazed by the curious blend of admiration and apprehension in her classmates' glances. Her phone buzzed again, messages of support, but also anonymous threats. She glanced at the screen, her resolve crystallizing. Jasmine knew she was no longer fighting just for herself. She had become a symbol of resistance against racism, injustice, and abuse of power at Sterling Academy. And Jasmine decided this fight she would see through to the end. As Jasmine stepped out into the hallway, the familiar gentle voice of her secretary came over the school intercom. "Jasmine Carter, please report to the principal's office immediately." That sweet tone stood in stark contrast to the tense atmosphere gripping Sterling Academy. Jasmine took a deep breath, reminding herself to stay calm for the confrontation ahead. She quickened her pace toward the principal's office, the very symbol of Sterling's absolute authority, now quaking under the tide of outrage swelling beyond its walls. When Jasmine nudged open the heavy mahogany door, Principal Patricia Brooks was already seated behind her imposing, polished desk. A rare flicker of unease crossed the principal's stern features, as if she'd just realized the power she once wielded so proudly was now under serious threat. "Please, have a seat," Patricia Brooks said, striving for warmth, though her eyes were ice cold. Jasmine sat down quietly, hands clasped in her lap, her gaze unwavering. Brooks leaned forward, voice softening in a practiced show of empathy. "Jasmine, I know you're angry and hurt, but this was probably just a misunderstanding among classmates. We'll handle it internally, and I assure you no one will be unfairly punished. For your own sake, you might consider staying quiet so things don't spiral out of control." Jasmine saw through the honeyed words. She shook her head slowly, her voice cool and steady. "Principal Brooks, this isn't a misunderstanding. It's a premeditated act of racist harassment." Brooks's brow furrowed. Her forced smile vanished. Her tone sharpened. "Can you prove what you're saying, Jasmine?" Without hesitation, Jasmine pulled out her phone and brought up screenshots of the chat between Justin Sinclair, Emma Collins, Blake Morrison, and Derek Allen. Each message laid bare their cruel intent. Who does she think she is, messing with us? Time to teach that black girl a lesson. Justin Sinclair. And we'll post it online so she never forgets. Emma Collins. Principal Brooks studied the messages. As she read their hateful content, her face drained of color. She looked up, trying to mask her fear with a stern reprimand. "Jasmine, these screenshots don't necessarily prove anything. Teenagers often joke around. I suggest you stop escalating this. If you keep causing trouble, it could harm your academic future." This wasn't consolation. It was a veiled threat. Jasmine held Brooks's gaze, each word clear and firm. "Are you threatening me? Do you really believe that staying silent about this racist attack will protect Sterling Academy's reputation?" Brooks paused, momentarily unsettled by Jasmine's unexpected resolve. She regained her composure and attempted to divert the conversation. "I'm not threatening you. I'm only warning you that the families involved here are very influential. You could face serious consequences if you continue pressuring the school." Jasmine smiled, a calm, defiant curve that made Brooks's hand tremble ever so slightly. She set her phone firmly on the desk. "Principal Brooks, I think you misunderstand. I've already contacted my attorney, Lauren Kim. She's reviewed all the evidence and is preparing legal action. Your threats, or anyone's, carry no weight now." Brooks recoiled, genuine fear and helplessness at last etched on her face. Lauren Kim was a name she knew well, a formidable lawyer with a track record of taking down powerful institutions. Sterling Academy was now staring down an unstoppable storm. Jasmine rose from her seat, her eyes blazing with newfound strength. "If there's nothing more to say, I'll be going. My attorney will be in touch soon." The office door slammed shut behind Jasmine, a clear signal that Principal Brooks's attempt to bury the scandal had failed. Left alone, Brooks exhaled heavily, her hand shaking as she reached for the phone to make urgent calls to the school's wealthiest parents. For the first time in her long career, she felt the absolute control Sterling Academy once held slipping through her fingers, all because of one student they had grossly underestimated. No sooner had Jasmine stepped out of Principal Brooks's office than tension still coiled within her. She could still see the ashen look on Brooks's face when she dropped the name Lauren Kim. Jasmine knew she'd already sent shockwaves through Sterling Academy, and that this was only the beginning of a long fight. The afternoon sun slanted through the lush canopy, dappling the walkway that led to Jasmine's usual bus stop. Just as she reached for the curb, a sleek, black luxury sedan eased to a stop before her. The passenger window rolled down to reveal a poised but anxious woman, Catherine Morrison, mother of Blake Morrison, one of Justin's closest friends. "Jasmine Carter," Catherine said softly. "Could we speak in private?" "It's very important." There was a weightiness in her voice that Jasmine couldn't ignore. Jasmine hesitated for a heartbeat, then saw something genuine in Catherine's eyes. She opened the door and slipped inside. After a moment of quiet, Catherine's voice came, tremulous beneath her calm exterior. "You must be wondering why I'm here," Catherine began, gripping the steering wheel. "But I could no longer stay silent, especially after what I've witnessed Sterling Academy do to so many innocent children, including my own daughter." Jasmine's eyes widened. She'd heard rumors of Mrs. Morrison's eldest daughter abruptly leaving school, but no one knew why. Now she realized the truth was darker and more painful than any gossip. Catherine reached into her purse and retrieved a slim, silver USB drive, placing it gently into Jasmine's hand. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "This contains everything I've collected over the years. Emails between board members, Principal Brooks, and Mr. Matthews. Documents detailing bribery. Records of systematic bullying and assaults on students of color and scholarship recipients. I thought silence would protect my family, but it was my biggest mistake." Her eyes glistened with tears as she recalled the worst memory of all. My older daughter, Sophia, the sister of Blake, was one of those victims. She endured a year of relentless torment simply for not fitting in. She became so desperate she tried to take her own life, right here at home. And instead of protecting her, Sterling Academy swept it under the rug to safeguard their reputation and the interests of wealthy families like the Sinclairs. A wave of pain and anger washed over Jasmine as she looked into Catherine's haunted eyes. "And what did you do when that happened?" Jasmine asked quietly, clutching the USB like a lifeline. Catherine gave a bitter laugh. "I was weak, Jasmine. I let money and influence muzzle me. We sent Sophia away to another school and pretended none of it ever occurred. But seeing you stand up so bravely, I realized I could no longer remain complicit. Blake has become part of that cruel system, and I've already lost one child. I refuse to lose another." Jasmine inhaled deeply, feeling the gravity of Catherine's confession settle on her shoulders. This was bigger than just her own battle. She carried the hopes of countless students who had suffered in silence. "You realize this could devastate your family," Jasmine said, meeting Catherine's gaze. Catherine's eyes shone with determination for the first time. "I know, and I'm prepared for the consequences. Sterling Academy thinks its power makes it untouchable, but they're wrong. You, with your courage and this evidence, can shatter their facade." Jasmine felt the weight of Catherine's faith bolster her own resolve. She clutched the USB tightly. It was the key to unlocking the justice so many deserved. As Jasmine rose to leave, Catherine clasped her hand and spoke earnestly. "Be careful. They will stop at nothing to protect their power and prestige, but I believe in you. You carry the hopes of many. Stay strong and unwavering." The sedan pulled away, leaving Jasmine standing in the glow of the fading sun, the USB burning like a promise in her hand. There was no turning back now. The true battle for Sterling Academy had begun. Catherine's car had barely disappeared from view when Jasmine found herself standing motionless under the deepening glow of sunset, the weight of the USB drive in her hand growing heavier with each passing moment. Catherine's final words still echoed in her mind, words that stirred in Jasmine equal measures of resolve and fear. She walked slowly toward her family's small apartment, tucked away in an aging complex. The concrete steps, worn smooth by countless footsteps, led her up to the second floor, where the soft yellow light spilling from their front window told her that her mother, Angela Carter, had just returned from a long shift at the hospital. The door swung open to reveal Angela, who dropped her bag and rushed forward, wrapping her arms around Jasmine as if afraid her daughter might vanish the moment she let go. Jasmine felt the slight tremor in her mother's thin shoulders, evidence of the worry and emotion that had built up during her absence. "My darling," Angela whispered, gently stroking the jagged edge of Jasmine's hair, her eyes brimming with pain. "I know what happened today, and I'm so proud of you for standing up. But I'm also terrified, Jasmine. Those powerful families, they won't let this go easily." Angela's voice caught as she looked into Jasmine's eyes, worry and fear etched across her features. In all her years as a nurse, Angela had witnessed injustice and discrimination, but never imagined it would reach her own daughter in a school that purported to protect its students. Gently, Jasmine led her mother to their familiar wooden dining table, its surface faded by time and countless hardships, and placed the silver USB drive in the center. Her voice was soft, yet unwavering. "Mom, this just came from Mrs. Catherine Morrison, Blake's mother. Inside are years' worth of evidence, emails showing corruption among the board, Principal Brooks, and Mr. Matthews, documents on bribes, and records of systematic bullying and racial attacks against scholarship students at Sterling Academy. This is our chance to expose the truth." Angela stared down at the small drive, then into Jasmine's determined eyes. Her fear deepened as she realized the enormity of the forces they were up against, the wealthiest, most powerful families in their community. Her voice trembled as she spoke quietly. "Jasmine, I don't doubt your courage, but those people have money and influence. They could destroy our lives in an instant." Jasmine felt her mother's anxiety and pain as if it were her own. Squeezing Angela's frail hand, she sought to lend her some of her own strength. "I know, Mom, but if we stay silent now, how many more innocent kids will suffer what I went through today? We've always been too afraid to speak up, and that fear has let them keep hurting families like the Morrisons and ours." Angela looked deep into Jasmine's bright, unwavering eyes. For a moment, she saw her younger self, the woman who once longed to fight injustice, but was forced to back down by life's pressures. Jasmine pressed on, her voice charged with emotion yet crystal clear. "You always told me that justice can't come unless we face the truth, right? We may not be wealthy, but we have courage, and right now, courage is all we need to change everything." Angela was silent for what felt like an eternity, as a fierce inner struggle played out in her heart. She knew full well that choosing to fight could shatter their fragile peace. Yet, deep down, she also knew that what Jasmine said was true. This wasn't just their battle, but a chance to protect countless other children from the same pain. Finally, Angela exhaled and looked at her daughter, equal parts anxious and resolute. "My sweet girl, you've grown braver than I ever imagined. If this is what needs to be done, I won't let you face it alone. We'll face it together, no matter what comes." At Angela's words, Jasmine couldn't hold back her tears. This time, they weren't tears of fear or sorrow, but of gratitude and fierce determination. Mother and daughter sat there long after, in their small apartment bathed in warm lamplight, ready to confront the truth and wage an uncompromising fight. They both knew their lives would never be the same, but they also knew, for the first time, they would no longer bow their heads to anyone. That tiny USB drive was more than just evidence against Sterling Academy's rotten power structure. It was a symbol of truth and courage that Jasmine and her mother had chosen to embrace. A choice that could change not only their own future, but the futures of many others as well. That night, after her mother had finally drifted into an anxious sleep, Jasmine sat alone at the little kitchen table, staring at the small silver USB drive in her hand. Her mother's promise of unwavering support had steeled her resolve. But Jasmine also understood in that moment that her adversaries would never back down so easily. Lost in thought, she was startled by the sound of the doorbell cutting through the silence. Glancing at the clock, 9 p.m., Jasmine felt a surge of unease and curiosity. No one would have reason to visit them at this hour. She opened the door to find a well-dressed middle-aged man in an expensive suit, carrying a glossy leather briefcase. Behind his thin-rimmed glasses, his sharp eyes and practiced smile suggested both professionalism and hidden motives. "Good evening, Jasmine Carter," he said smoothly, his tone underscored by unspoken intent. "I am Jonathan Hartwell, counsel for Sterling Academy. May I come in for a moment?" Jasmine hesitated, then stood her ground. "You can speak here. My mother is resting, and I won't disturb her at this hour." Hartwell's frown flickered briefly before he recovered his genial facade. "Very well. I'll be brief. Sterling Academy deeply regrets what happened to you today. We understand the pain you've suffered. To show our support, we'd like to offer you an enhanced scholarship, full coverage of your college tuition plus living expenses. In return, we ask only that you stop sharing negative information and withdraw your accusations against the school." His voice was as smooth as silk, but Jasmine saw the steel in his eyes, the unmistakable edge of coercion. She recognized this wasn't a simple gesture of goodwill, but a clear warning of the Academy's power and what they might do if she refused. "I think you misunderstand me, Mr. Hartwell," Jasmine replied calmly, her tone unwavering. "I'm not here for money or pity. I'm fighting for justice, and the only thing I want from Sterling Academy is accountability for the wrongs they've committed against me and so many others." Hartwell's polite smile turned brittle. "Are you certain, Jasmine? You're up against very powerful people. People who could make life extremely difficult for you and your mother." Jasmine met his gaze without flinching. She reached into her pocket, pulled out the silver USB drive, and held it up defiantly. "Mr. Hartwell, I think you should be worried. This drive contains everything Sterling Academy has spent the last 15 years hiding. corruption, racism, and countless other serious violations that you and the school have covered up. I have emails, internal records, and legal evidence proving how they've used money and influence to manipulate and destroy innocent lives." Hartwell's confident expression shattered. He gripped his briefcase so tightly its leather creaked. Beads of sweat formed on his brow as the reality of Jasmine's evidence hit him. He hadn't expected her to possess such damning proof. "Where did you get this?" he stammered, trying and failing to steady his voice. "You don't know what you're facing. Hand over that drive now, or—" "Or what, Mr. Hartwell?" Jasmine interrupted, her voice eerily calm. "Will you threaten me and my mother, or make me disappear as others before me have mysteriously vanished? Know this, my personal attorney, Lauren Kim, already has a complete copy of this evidence. If anything happens to me or my family, Sterling Academy will face the harshest legal consequences imaginable." The apartment plunged into tense silence. Hartwell knew only too well that Lauren Kim was a formidable lawyer who never shied away from taking on powerful institutions. Panic flickered in his eyes. "Jasmine, perhaps we should end this conversation here," he said, voice strained, taking a cautious step back. Jasmine held her ground, her gaze as cold and unyielding as steel. "You're right, Mr. Hartwell. This conversation ends now, but the fight has only just begun. Tell Sterling Academy they've picked the wrong person to intimidate." Without another word, Hartwell turned and hurried down the hallway, his polished composure gone, replaced by bitter defeat. Jasmine closed the door behind him and stood for a long moment in the dim light, fully aware that she had won a crucial battle, but also that she now faced an even greater danger than before. Yet she felt no fear. Clutching the USB drive, Jasmine knew she was no longer alone. The struggle for justice at Sterling Academy had officially begun, and this time, the truth would not be silenced. As Hartwell's car pulled out of the apartment complex, Jasmine remained frozen by the door, her heart racing. But she knew that now, more than ever, keeping her composure was vital. Just as she was about to step back inside, her phone buzzed. The screen showed an unfamiliar number. Jasmine hesitated, then tapped answer. A soft but serious female voice spoke the moment she held the phone to her ear. "Jasmine? This is Alexandra Chen, Emily Chen's older sister. Emily used to attend Sterling. Someone just tipped me off that the school board is calling an urgent, closed-door meeting tomorrow morning to expel you." It felt like ice water had been thrown in Jasmine's face. She'd expected Sterling Academy to strike back, but not so swiftly or so decisively. "Ms. Alexandra." Jasmine drew a deep breath, striving for calm. "Do you know there's specific grounds for this?" "Yes." Alexandra's tone dropped. "They're accusing you of creating a hostile learning environment and severely damaging the school's reputation and other students' sense of safety. It's their usual tactic, Jasmine. I saw it happen to my sister. They want to silence you by kicking you out before the story spreads." Jasmine clenched her phone, anger and injustice surging within her. She recalled the hushed whispers about the Chen sisters, Emily, the outstanding Asian student who'd been brutally attacked by a clique of wealthy classmates. Sterling not only covered up the incident but forced the Chen family to leave town in total silence. Now that same sister was calling to help her. "Jasmine, you need to inform your lawyer immediately," Alexandra urged. "I'll attend tomorrow's meeting with you and your attorney, Lauren Kim. It's time Sterling Academy learned they can't keep hiding the truth or oppressing innocent students." As soon as the call ended, Jasmine dialed Lauren Kim. The renowned attorney answered promptly, her voice firm and professional. "You did well to alert me right away, Jasmine. Don't worry. We'll face that meeting together. They plan to expel you to shut down the controversy, but it's also our chance to present all your evidence to the board and the public." The next morning, nearly an hour before the meeting, Lauren Kim and Alexandra Chen were already at Sterling Academy. The two formidable women flanked Jasmine as they strode down the hallway, a striking tableau amid the curious, wary glances swirling around them. Jasmine no longer cared what people whispered. The boardroom sat at the east end of the hall, its massive oak doors shut tight, an emblem of Sterling's authority. Inside, the most powerful figures in the community were assembled: Richard Sinclair, Principal Patricia Brooks, and Jonathan Hartwell, all bearing stern expressions. When the doors swung open, Jasmine entered with a defiant confidence that startled everyone. Hartwell frowned as if he hadn't expected her to be so composed after last night's failed intimidation. Richard Sinclair, Justin's father, fixed her with a cold, hostile stare. Principal Brooks tried to appear calm, but her knuckles whitened as she gripped the edge of the table. "We may begin," Principal Brooks said in a voice as cold as ice. "Today's meeting will discuss Jasmine Carter's conduct, which has disrupted the school environment and seriously harmed our institution's reputation." Lauren Kim stood immediately, her tone measured yet commanding. "Members of the board, my client hasn't caused any disruption. She's speaking out against the systemic racism, bullying, and corruption that have persisted at Sterling Academy for years. If anyone should be held accountable, it's those who've covered up these crimes to protect their own interests." Tension crackled through the room. Sinclair slammed his hand on the table and sneered, "Ms. Kim, your allegations are baseless and insulting. Jasmine Carter is clearly stirring up trouble and undermining the school's values." Alexandra Chen rose then, her gaze sharp and determined. "Excuse the interruption, but Mr. Sinclair should reconsider his words. My sister, Emily Chen, was once a victim of your merciless system. Sterling Academy not only hid her assault, but coerced my family into silence with threats and financial pressure. And I assure you, Emily is not the only one." A heavy silence fell over the boardroom. Hartwell and Brooks exchanged strained glances. They had not anticipated Alexandra's direct confrontation. Jasmine sensed that this was the pivotal moment. She stood, calmly placing a USB drive on the table, her eyes locking onto each board member in turn. "Here is the documentation of all the corruption, racism, and violence Sterling Academy has concealed for the past 15 years. You may try to expel me today, but you will never hide the truth again. It's time Sterling Academy faced the consequences of its actions." Her gaze was ice, resolute and unyielding. For the first time, she saw genuine fear ripple across the faces of those powerful figures. Sterling Academy had picked the wrong student to intimidate, and now they knew there was no turning back. The meeting room fell into a suffocating silence the moment Jasmine finished speaking. The powerful faces around the table, accustomed to controlling every situation, now showed unmistakable unease. Richard Sinclair narrowed his eyes, casting a venomous glare at Jasmine, while Principal Patricia Brooks looked flustered, desperately trying to regain her composure. Not giving them a chance to recover, Jasmine gently plugged the USB into the laptop that had been set up. Instantly, the large screen behind her filled with folders of documents, secret email exchanges, clear photographs, and video footage capturing every crime Sterling Academy had tried to hide. Jasmine's voice rang out, clear and commanding. On the screen now is an email exchange between Richard Sinclair and Principal Brooks, plotting to bury incidents of violence, bullying, and racial discrimination at this school. And here is an internal meeting recording where Mr. Sinclair instructed the board to force the Chen family into silence, under threat of financial ruin that would drive them out of state. The recording played, Sinclair's cold, malicious voice echoing. "Make sure the Chens understand. If they dare to speak up, Sterling will make sure they can never rebuild their lives. They need to know who they're up against." Alexandra Chen clenched her fists, her face pained but resolute. Around the table, the board members looked stricken, as they realized Jasmine held irrefutable proof. Hartwell went pale, stammering in a desperate bid to save face. These items haven't been authenticated. We can't jump to conclusions." Attorney Lauren Kim cut him off sharply, her tone authoritative. "Mr. Hartwell, I believe the FBI is best suited to make that determination." At that moment, the boardroom door burst open. A team of FBI agents in Navy jackets bearing federal insignia strode in with purpose. Leading them was Senior Agent Mark Reynolds, flashing his badge as he declared, "I'm Special Agent Reynolds with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We're here under federal court order to investigate and to arrest those responsible for corruption, the cover-up of racist acts, and school violence at Sterling Academy." Richard Sinclair shot to his feet, voice trembling with angry defiance. "Who do you think you are? You can't barge in here and slander us." Reynolds replied coolly, unyielding. "We have a lawful arrest warrant, Mr. Sinclair. You and Principal Brooks, along with others involved, will accompany us to the station for questioning on these charges." 2 agents stepped forward, handcuffing Sinclair as he weakly struggled, then led him out in stunned silence. Patricia Brooks rose, her face drained of color. As an agent approached, she locked eyes with Jasmine, her voice trembling with bitter regret. "Do you know what you've done, Jasmine? You've destroyed this school." Jasmine met her gaze calmly, ice-cold resolve in her eyes. "No, you did. People like you destroyed Sterling, turning it into a nightmare for innocent students for decades." Brooks fell silent as agents took her away. Jonathan Hartwell tried to slip out but was intercepted. His glossy leather briefcase was immediately seized as evidence. One by one, the board members were escorted out. Alexandra placed a gentle hand on Jasmine's shoulder, gratitude and admiration shining in her eyes. "Thank you, Jasmine. You've done what neither I nor my family could. Because of you, Sterling can never hurt anyone else." Jasmine squeezed Alexandra's hand, feeling the power of solidarity. She knew this victory belonged not just to her, but to all who had suffered under Sterling Academy's corrupt authority. As they walked out with Lauren, students and teachers lined the corridor, their eyes filled with awe and disbelief. News of the FBI raid spread like wildfire, plunging the entire school into unprecedented shock. Standing in the hallway, bathed in warm sunlight streaming through the windows, Jasmine felt relief and pride swell within her. The little USB from Catherine Morrison had fulfilled its mission, opening the door to truth and justice. Jasmine understood that while this was a major victory, the struggle for fairness and equality would continue. But for now, she could stand tall, head held high, secure in knowing she was no longer alone. Sterling Academy had learned a hard lesson. No power is great enough to keep the truth hidden forever. From this day forward, Jasmine Carter would remain a living symbol of courage and determination against injustice and oppression, not just within these walls but across the nation. The news of the FBI raid on Sterling Academy quickly became a national flashpoint. Television broadcasts ran continuous updates on the scandal, leaving communities across the country in shock. Jasmine had never imagined that her act of courage would resonate so widely. As she stepped into that vast courtroom, she realized her battle had become a symbol for millions who'd faced abuse and discrimination in educational settings. The trial unfolded in a solemn, tense atmosphere. The courtroom was packed, reporters, families of victims, and ordinary citizens all eager to witness justice. Jasmine sat in the front row, flanked by her mother, Angela Carter, and her attorney, Lauren Kim. Alexandra Chen took a seat just behind them, her hand resting reassuringly on Jasmine's shoulder. When Judge Elizabeth Harper, renowned for her fairness and integrity, entered, everyone rose in respectful silence. Her gaze swept the room before settling on Jasmine, empathy and genuine encouragement in her eyes. Today, we convene, case number 2, 17B, Judge Harper announced, her voice firm and resonant, involving charges of assault, racial discrimination, and the cover-up of criminal behavior at Sterling Academy. Justin Sinclair was escorted into the courtroom wearing a crisp white shirt, but gone was the arrogance that once defined him. He bowed his head, avoiding all eye contact, perhaps finally grasping the gravity of his actions. As the prosecutor presented video evidence and incriminating chat messages from Justin's group, the room fell silent. Over the speakers, Justin's own voice played back in all its callousness. "We need to teach that black girl her place. Who does she think she is?" Justin's head sank even lower. It was too late for regret. Judge Harper pronounced her verdict without hesitation. "Justin Sinclair, your deliberate racist attack on another student has inflicted personal harm and poisoned the learning environment. You are sentenced to 18 months in a correctional facility, followed by 3 years supervised release. Furthermore, you are permanently barred from enrollment at any accredited university." The gavel fell. Justin slumped into his seat, stripped of every privilege he'd once taken for granted. Next to face the bench were Mr. David Matthews and Principal Patricia Brooks, 2 adults who had sworn to protect students, but instead betrayed that trust. Jasmine sat up straight, her gaze unwavering as the charges were read. "Patricia Brooks and David Matthews, you are accused of intentionally concealing incidents of violence and racial discrimination at Sterling Academy. Your actions have inflicted lasting emotional and physical damage on countless innocent students." The prosecution unveiled emails from Brooks to Matthews, instructing him to turn a blind eye to reports of bullying. In an audio recording, Brooks's voice rang out coldly, "Just pretend you know nothing, David. We cannot let public scrutiny derail this institution." Judge Harper fixed the 2 defendants with a steely look. "Mr. Matthews and Mrs. Brooks, you chose to protect your own reputations rather than the welfare of your students. I hereby sentence Patricia Brooks to 3 years imprisonment and David Matthews to 2 years imprisonment for their roles in covering up these egregious offenses." The courtroom was hushed. Matthews bowed his head in stunned resignation. Brooks struggled to maintain her composure, her face drained of hope. When the gavel sounded to end the trial, applause broke out from the gallery. Angela Carter grasped her daughter's hand, tears streaming down her cheeks in pride and relief. Lauren Kim offered Jasmine a warm, congratulatory smile. "You've accomplished something far greater than justice for yourself. You've shown millions that truth and courage can overcome any force." Outside the courthouse, Jasmine looked up at the clear blue sky and drew in a deep, cleansing breath. For the first time in weeks, she felt a profound sense of peace. Justice had prevailed, and she had laid the foundation for real change. She turned to her mother, whose eyes shone with love and pride. In that moment, Jasmine understood that no matter the challenges ahead, holding fast to truth and justice would always bring light to darkness. From this day forward, Jasmine Carter was no longer just a student who'd been wronged. She had become a living emblem of strength and hope, a powerful reminder that no amount of power or wealth can ever defeat truth and courage. When Jasmine stepped out of the courthouse that day, she didn't realize she was passing through a far larger threshold. An entirely new journey was awaiting her. Her story of courage at Sterling Academy had already outgrown the walls of that elite private school. It was spreading across America as a powerful wake-up call to the injustices quietly festering within our education system. Just months after that landmark trial, Jasmine received an unexpected invitation to speak before the United States Congress at a special hearing on racism and discrimination in our schools. Standing before the grand doors of the Capitol, her heart pounded, but she also felt a new, unshakable strength welling up inside her. Angela Carter, her mother, squeezed her hand, eyes shining with confidence. "Sweetheart, tell the world what you've been through. It's time your voice is heard loud and clear." Stepping up to the lectern, Jasmine surveyed the imposing chamber. Senators, representatives, and hundreds of reporters all waiting. She took a deep breath and began, her voice clear, strong, and unwavering. "Distinguished members of Congress, my name is Jasmine Carter, and I stand before you today not just for myself. I represent countless students of color, students from low-income backgrounds who every day struggle against injustice, prejudice, and violence in the very institutions meant to protect and nurture them." The room fell utterly silent as she continued, her words conveying the pain and outrage she had endured. "At Sterling Academy, I expected protection and equal opportunity to grow and learn. Instead, I was met with blatant racism, physical assault, and public humiliation by those who believed their wealth and status put them above accountability. Worse still, the teachers and school leaders, those entrusted to champion justice, chose silence, covering up these crimes instead of confronting them." Jasmine paused, locking eyes with the visibly moved audience, knowing she spoke for so many. "I stand here today to urge Congress to pass the Carter Act, a law that will ensure no student in this country ever suffers the same injustices my friends and I endured. The Carter Act will require every federally funded school to adopt an independent, transparent oversight mechanism to prevent discrimination, racism, and school violence. No longer may money, privilege, or power be used to silence the most vulnerable." Her final words landed amid a wave of emotion. Lawmakers rose to their feet in thunderous applause. Cameras captured every moment, and millions of Americans watching at home felt they'd finally found a true representative of their struggles. Within days, the Carter Act was trending across social media, rallying support from ordinary citizens, civil rights groups, and celebrities alike. Jasmine Carter had become the face of resistance against injustice and racism in education, a young leader who refused to stay silent. As letters poured in, each sharing stories similar to her own, Angela Carter wiped away tears of pride, knowing her daughter had truly become a living symbol of change. With each heartfelt note, Jasmine's resolve grew stronger. She would fight for those who could not fight for themselves. Immediately after the hearing, the Carter Act sailed onto the congressional agenda with overwhelming, bipartisan support. In less than 3 months, it passed both houses with a landslide majority, opening a hopeful new chapter for millions of students nationwide. At a press conference marking the bill's enactment, Jasmine shared her gratitude. "This victory isn't mine alone. It belongs to everyone who has ever felt voiceless. I hope that from this day forward, no one in this nation will bow to injustice." The Carter Act declares loudly that justice and equality are the American values we must always protect and uphold. From that moment on, Jasmine Carter's name became synonymous with inspiration. Universities, international conferences, and advocacy groups across the country invited her to share her story and spread her positive message. Jasmine came to realize that her fight was no longer a personal struggle. It had become a powerful social movement. With passion in her heart, she vowed never to yield to injustice again, to remain a voice for the oppressed, and to remind everyone that true justice always belongs to those brave enough to stand up for what is right. After the Carter Act passed, Jasmine's life opened onto an entirely new chapter, a journey full of hope and tremendous responsibility. But behind her newfound acclaim, Sterling Academy, the very symbol of power and privilege, was closing its doors forever. Public pressure and the court's ruling forced the prestigious school to shut down, and its vast assets were liquidated to compensate the hundreds of victims who had suffered deep wounds from racism and school violence there. On the final day, as the Sterling Academy sign was lowered for what would be the last time, former students and families who'd been hurt by the school's corrupt system gathered on the lawn. Alexandra Chen stood beside Jasmine, her eyes sad yet satisfied. She murmured, "I never thought I'd see this day, Jasmine, but you've accomplished the miracle so many thought impossible." Jasmine squeezed Alexandra's hand, fully understanding the complex emotions she carried. For Alexandra, the school's closure was a long overdue liberation from the pain that had haunted her family for years. Sterling's final day became an iconic moment in the movement against racism in education. For Jasmine, it proved once and for all that truth and courage prevail. In the wake of the scandal, Jasmine and her mother, Angela Carter, saw their lives transformed. Jasmine was accepted at Harvard University, where she continued to demonstrate her talent and resolve. Over 4 years, she led groundbreaking research projects on education policy and social justice. When she graduated summa cum laude with degrees in law and sociology, her name had already become a beacon in both academia and society. On a sunny day at Harvard Yard, Jasmine stepped up to the podium as valedictorian. Looking down at her mother, seated in the audience, she spoke with deep emotion. "My mother once told me that our greatest power is the courage to stand up against wrongdoing. She has spent her life sacrificing and fighting quietly, teaching me the meaning of that courage. Today, I want to offer my deepest thanks to the greatest woman in my life, my mother, Angela Carter." The crowd erupted in warm applause. Angela, now medical ethics director at Boston General Hospital, wiped away tears of pride and joy. While Jasmine and her mother pursued new achievements, Blake Morrison and his mother, Catherine Morrison, took decisive steps to atone for past wrongs. After the scandal, Blake seemed to awaken entirely to his actions' consequences. He began volunteering with anti-racism campaigns and frequently shared his story as a cautionary tale about the cost of indifference and complicity. Catherine, having witnessed firsthand the devastating effects of her own silence, founded a charitable fund to support low-income and minority students' access to fair education. She collaborated closely with Jasmine on projects to combat racism and bullying nationwide. One summer afternoon at a major charity event in Boston, Jasmine ran into Blake. He greeted her hesitantly, his eyes filled with genuine remorse. "Jasmine, I know you may never forgive me for what I did, but I need you to know you woke me up. I will spend the rest of my life making amends." Jasmine studied him for a long moment, then answered with surprising compassion, "Blake, I've learned that the most important thing isn't our past, but what we do now to make things right, for ourselves and for the future. If you truly want to change, you have my support." Blake nodded, moved to his core. For the first time, he felt he'd been granted a real chance to start over. In the days that followed, the media widely covered their meeting as a symbol of reconciliation, awakening, and hope. Jasmine continued to receive letters and emails from across the country. Thank you notes from people she inspired to speak out against injustice. One quiet evening, Jasmine and her mother returned to their old apartment, the place that had always been her strongest source of strength. Angela put a gentle arm around her daughter, tears of happiness streaming down her cheeks. "My dear child, I never imagined we'd come so far, but I know this is all because of your courage and determination." Jasmine looked back at her mother with gratitude and fulfillment. "Mom, everything I've accomplished is because you stood by me, believed in me, and supported me." They shared a long, peaceful silence, savoring the rare moment of quiet. Outside, the city buzzed with life, but Jasmine knew their lives would forever move forward toward a future where justice and courage always prevail. For Jasmine Carter, the Sterling Academy scandal was no longer a painful memory. It had become the foundation for a life of purpose, one where she could stand up for others, fight for fairness, and leave a lasting mark on everyone who heard her story. Over the years of highs and lows, Jasmine Carter's story grew far beyond her personal battle at Sterling Academy. It became a powerful symbol, a living inspiration for millions across the country. Yet, Jasmine knew the journey toward justice never truly ends. Instead, it demands ongoing perseverance and even greater responsibility. With her passion and achievements, Jasmine was soon appointed Senior Specialist in the Office for Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Education. In this pivotal role, she spent every day reviewing, investigating, and intervening in violations of student rights, especially for students of color and those from marginalized communities. Her small office was always overflowing with case files, letters from desperate students and parents, and stacks of documents. But Jasmine never tired of that work. To her, each letter was a reminder that the fight she began at Sterling Academy had to continue with even greater vigor. Once, reading a letter from a black student named Mia, who described how her school ignored her reports of discrimination and violence, Jasmine's heart clenched. She knew she had to stand up more boldly than ever to ensure no one else suffered as Mia had. Fueled by unwavering courage, Jasmine launched a nationwide campaign called Break the Silence. Through this initiative, she traveled to dozens of states and schools, giving talks, leading trainings, and providing resources on how students and parents can respond to racism and school violence. At every event, she drove home one powerful message. Don't stay silent, speak up. Document the evidence and never submit to injustice. That mantra didn't just reach the students she addressed. It echoed through schools, forums, and social media channels nationwide. More and more students began speaking out, gathering proof and sharing their stories with confidence, and an unprecedented wave of positive change swept through American education. On a crisp autumn day in Washington, D.C., Jasmine addressed a packed conference of thousands of students, educators, and lawmakers. As she stepped onto the stage, thunderous applause washed over her. In that moment, she saw hundreds of hopeful faces looking back. "My name is Jasmine Carter," she began, her voice steady and impassioned. "I was once a student who lost her voice, isolated by injustice and a system determined to hide the truth. But I've learned that our greatest power lies in speaking out. We must never let silence become complicity. If you see injustice, stand up. If you face discrimination, fight back. Document every piece of evidence because truth is your strongest weapon." The room erupted in applause again, more enthusiastic than before. Jasmine spotted young people whose eyes burned with determination. She realized Break the Silence had become a vibrant movement, powered by an entire generation. In the days that followed, media coverage of the campaign spread like wildfire. Schools reevaluated their policies, long-hidden incidents came to light, and victims began to find real justice. Jasmine Carter's name became synonymous not only with courage, but with the transformative power of truth and transparency in America's schools. At the Office for Civil Rights, Jasmine continued to receive new case files and heartfelt thank you letters every day. Sometimes she paused at her window, looking out over Washington's bustling streets, reminding herself that this mission would be her life's work. One late afternoon, her mother, Angela Carter, visited the office. Seeing the photos of Jasmine with grateful students lining the walls, Angela embraced her daughter, voice trembling with pride. "Sweetheart, I couldn't be prouder of you. You've changed not only your own life, but the lives of millions of others." Jasmine smiled and squeezed her mother's hand. "Mom, none of this would have been possible without you, your support, your belief in me from day one. I'll keep fighting so no one else has to go through what we did." As the sunset bathed them in warm light, Jasmine knew the fight would never truly end. But she was no longer alone. Around her stood countless people inspired to stand up like never before. And in her heart, one message blazed brighter than ever. Don't stay silent. Speak up, document the evidence, and never bow to injustice. Jasmine Carter's journey proves that each of us can spark change if we have the courage to stand against wrongdoing. Never remain silent in the face of injustice. Your voice and bravery could save many lives. What do you think of Jasmine's inspiring journey? If you faced similar injustice, what would you do? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and share this video to spread the positive message. Subscribe to our channel for more meaningful stories. Thanks for watching and see you next time.